fund management to give you a briefing on how you can actually move ahead with your career in finance if you have joined the CFA. We also have a guest from CFA Institute, Ms. Florence Wong, who is going to give you a briefing on the CFA program itself. I will quickly run you through and introduce ourselves. So a CFA is a professional qualification. And before I do that, I have to give you the housekeeping rules. So today's session is for 1.5 hours, and participants are requested to keep their videos switched off, and you are requested to stay muted. The question and answers will be held at the end of the session, but you can continue to type your questions in the chat box when you want to ask, and you can also identify the speaker that you want to ask the question of. In the end, we will share a feedback form with you, so we'd appreciate if you fill that as well for us. Thank you. Now, a quick introduction of CFA Institute. So CFA Institute is a global not-for-profit organization, and basically CFA stands for Chartered Financial Analyst. It's a professional qualification for investment management in finance, of course. A CFA Institute is engages through a society like ours in over 160 countries. You can see that these blue dots identify in various places in the world and around the globe where CFA Institute is present and CFA charter holders are present. So currently there are 170,000 charter holders around the world. We have more than 150 CFA societies worldwide. And what we as a society do is that we help develop professionals who have already done CFA, and we try to give some kind of a value to them once they've completed their charter holders in terms of their professional learning and engagements. CFA Society itself was established in 2002, and we're almost completing our 2 decades. And we hope that once you've completed your CFA programs, you will join the society and be part of the leadership teams. May I request the poll questions, please? So have you all heard of, as soon as spot pops up, I will repeat the question. So are you aware of CFA Institute's research challenge? We run this research challenge in Pakistan as well. It's a global challenge in which students are supposed to write a research report and make the recommendations on buy or sell of a particular company. So, and this time around, we have almost 22 universities, I think, were interested in running this challenge with us. So I'm not getting the responses. Is everyone filling out the poll questions? Should we close? Can I see the response? Yeah, okay, so 41% of those present know about the CFA Institute Research Challenge, and 59% don't, so almost 60% do not know about this challenge. I will encourage you to engage with us. We are present on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and on YouTube channels where we heavily market this program. And of course, now that you're part of the Florence's database, should probably be getting some information on this challenge from them as well. Can you run the second poll question? Are you aware of CFA Institute's ethics challenge? So we run an ethics challenge in which last year IBA's team won in the regional final against Singapore and Malaysia. This time it was a bigger regional challenge, and we give a case on ethics in which you're supposed to identify the CFA Institute's identified ethical violations prevalent in the investment management industry. Maybe end the poll. And right now we have 21% know that about the ethics challenge, and 80% don't. So we hope that after this, you'll be more aware of our efforts to develop the future professionals. So we, as CFA Society, also do a lot of university engagement programs. And as I, through the poll questions, you understand, there's a research challenge. It is a worldwide challenge. And you get to learn a lot of things from the professionals that are sitting there right in front of you. They mentor these university students. You're able to present it to a team of professionals. You go on to a challenge in the next round to present within the region in Hong Kong or Singapore or Malaysia or these APEC region where it's usually the teams are there. And ethics challenge again is the same process. I think we will engage with you further on this. So with this, I would like to hand over to Florence. Thank you so much. Florence, over to you. I will stop sharing. Great.
Thank you, Jawad. So hello everyone, I'm Florence and I'm in charge of the university relations in Asia Pacific. We have a time constraint, so I'll be quickly giving you an overview of the CFA Institute, the program, and some a little bit about the career aspect before I pass the time to the panel speakers. So let's kick off. The CFA Institute is the premier global association for the investment management professionals. All the work we do support our mission statement, which is to lead the investment professions globally by promoting the highest standard of ethics, education, and professional excellence for the ultimate benefit of society. So as Jawad mentioned before, our global network includes more than 170 CFA charterholders worldwide in over 160 markets. And we have more than 170 local societies. Of course, CFA Pakistan Society is one of those. And up to today, actually, we have over 700 universities participate in the university affiliation program, and more than 25,000 firms across the world employ CFA charterholders. So these slides quickly give you an overview of the benefit of the CFA program. The CFA charter is marked as a mark of distinction. It provides a strong ethical foundation, which has been at the core of the program since the first exam was given in 1963. So, and you can really think that the CFA program, the designation as a global passport. So wherever you are in the world, either locally or in different regions, you have the credential that is recognized by finance employers. And our curriculum is also grounded in practice, which we engage with many CFA charterholders in the industry from around the world. As you may already heard, the Financial Times call us the CFA credential, the industry benchmark, because the program is built around a robust curriculum that is practice-driven. I also want to highlight a very valuable network that you can get being a CFA charterholder. As you can see, this event is arranged by your local society, CFA Society Pakistan. So we have this local network to support our local investment professional in over 160 different countries. You will also gain access to a wide suite of member resources and tools to help you navigate with your career landscape. So we have job listing in our career center where you have relevant career content you can explore to know if you want to take a next step or change in a career. So I also would like to let you know that to emphasize the CFA program is a generous program. It is a very deep and broad coverage of curriculum. So prepare you for many different job roles so you can broaden your options by taking the CFA program earlier in your career or even when you are still a student. So let's talk about the program, the exam itself. As you know, the CFA program is actually a self-study 3-level programs, and each of the 3 exams covers a full range of topics, but with a slightly different focus. So at level 1, the focus is more on the investment tools. It covers all the securities, economics, quantitative methods, and how to read financial statements, etc. So the level 1 exam focus on your knowledge and comprehension of the knowledge. And then level 2, the focus is deep dive into valuation. So taking different asset classes, for example, securities, bonds, stock, and you have to answer the question, how do people value the price of these individual securities? And the level 2 exam basically require you to apply and analyze. And move on to level 3 as is obvious, is about portfolio analysis. How to put together manage portfolio in order to hit the goals. So which with the client's constraint, and this really the key for level 3, which is to bring your knowledge together to put into an optimized portfolio. So the level 3 exam basically need your skills in synthesize and evaluate. As you can see from the slides, at the core of the program and the curriculum is ethics and professional standards. You will learn best practice of ethical professional behavior, specifically applied to situations you will encounter in the financial world. So it helps ensure that our charter holders serve as the active advocate of the integrity of this investment industry, where we know that reputation and trust is very important, and transparency and investment protection, investor protections are very critical, especially in this field. In terms of the curriculum, each year, of course, we bring in several new innovation and up-to-date topics. For instance, we involved machine learning and big data analytics, and we also see a trend with more and more practitioners incorporating ESG into the decision-making process. So we actually also introduced new readings that talk about the different aspect of evaluating corporate governance policies and procedures and ESG integrations. As looking at ESG in the 2022 curriculum, the most recent one, the coverage of ESG topics increased to 23 readings, cover in all 7 topics areas. And let's move on to talk about the path to CFA charterholder. Of course, you need to pass all 3 levels of the exam, and you also need to meet the work experience requirement, which is to acquire 4,000 hours of qualified work experience, professional work experience, which really means doing works that are related to investment management process. And you will have to submit your references when you apply to become a CFA charterholder, pay the membership fees, and you'll be able to use the CFA designation behind your name. So one of the frequently asked questions we get from students is about the work experience. So as mentioned, 4,000 hours have to be accumulated in a minimum of 36 months, which is like 3 years. So your daily responsibility should be involved in investment decision-making process. You are doing it, or you're teaching it, or you're supervising others to do it. If you're not sure, I will recommend you to visit this self-assessment page, as you can see the link here. So that will definitely provide you a full picture and a better idea. So this session will be recorded. So later on, when you receive the video and this slides deck, you'll be able to access to this page on your own time. So another common question we get is how do the CFA charterholder pass the exam? So typically, successful candidates will spend about 300 hours to study for each level. And when you become a candidate, you will receive all the study materials you need to pass the exam. The CFA curriculum is the only source materials for exam writers to create the exam questions. You should also take full advantage of the study tools which are online. We call the CFA program learning ecosystem. So this is a screenshot of the digital learning ecosystem that I mentioned. So the learning ecosystem hosts the entire CFA curriculum, and then it also include all the tools like mock exam, built-in study planners, games, flashcards to help our candidates to learn. This is designed to basically enhance your learning experience, and it provides also a dashboard so that the candidates can track their performance. And it is web-based, so it is compatible with all mobile devices. And most recently, we also create the apps, so you can download the apps to be synchronized all together with this learning ecosystem. And this provides a really personalized learning path for our candidates because this the experience is based on your behavior and preferences you provided to this platform. Besides the learning ecosystem, the candidates will also get access to this candidates resource page. You can see a snapshot here. Basically, all the information you need to be a candidate or to sit for the exam will be housed in this page. Okay, let's talk about the enrollment requirement. So effective on the 3rd of March, there's a relatively new requirement compared to the past. Of course, first, either you have a bachelor degree, then you can go to the take the CFA level 1, or you have you already have been working full-time for 3 years. You can go and sit for level 1, or more commonly asked question is that you're a final year student. But when you can register, which is the 11-month rules, like you may want to remember, is that as long as the exam is sitting within 11 months of your graduation month, then you can register for that particular exam. For example, if you're graduating in July, then the earliest exam you can take will be the August exam in the previous year. So what is the benefit of doing that? We're trying to let students who want to take the level 1 exam early before the graduation year. So you can do it as the beginning or in the summer break of your final year. And then during your final year, you can focus more on your academic obligations. And after you pass level 1, you this level 1 can be added to your on your CV. So it helps you enhance your CV during your final year job hunting process. And also after you pass level 1, you can go immediately to register level 2, as long as level 2 exam is after your graduation. So if you want to know more about all these details, you can go to our website to learn more about the CFA program requirements. And besides changing the enrollment requirement, we have also totally shifted the exam from paper-based testing to computer-based testing since this year's in February. So now level 1 is available 4 times per year in February, May, August, and November. Level 2 in February and August, and level 3 in May and November. So this computer-based testing actually allows for more operational flexibility for the institute to allow to the adjust to the changing landscape, particularly not only for the candidates' demand, but also during this COVID. We have a lot of cancellation, test center close, and all this impact. We are able to manage it more flexibly, and all the test center is limited to 26 candidates. So we also ensure that social distancing is allowed in the test center. And with the change to computer-based testing, actually, we are now the exam is plotted in more than 400 locations globally in the world. And every test center will be monitor candidates for any form of cheating. So you should have no worries about the security. And as usual, writing materials and specific calculator will be approved to bring into the exam center. And the rough schedule of the exam would be 135 minutes for each session, and there will be 30 minutes in beginning to let candidates familiarize themselves with the settings, and also there will be a 30 minutes break in between. So we want to ensure that our candidates will sit the exam in a comfortable environment to ensure they can finish the exam in a comfortable and silenced environment. So this is a screenshot of showing you how the computer-based exam will look like. Of course, it's not exactly the CFA exam, but I want to show you the features is that there will be a tutorial, as I mentioned. Also, there will be a time clocks, so you know the remaining time for your exam, and then you can easily go backward and forward, and you can easily mark the exam the question which you have found challenging and you want to come back later. And every time before you submit your exam, there will be a reminder telling you there's some question, if any question you missed. So this is basically an idea on how computer-based testing look like. So we've talked about the focus of each level exam. This is the format of the exam. So level 1 is all multiple choice question, 180 multiple choice question. And then level 2 will be item size question, which is some case scenarios, and then followed by several multiple choice question relevant to that case study. And then level 3 will combine of essay question and the item size question, like the case scenario questions. Okay, let's talk about the pricing. For all the exam, for the first time you register, there will be a one-time enrollment fees of 450. So this 450 is the enrollment fees, and you only need to pay it once. And then for every exam settings, there will be 2 price points, either $700 early bird price or 1,000 standard registration price. And these fees already cover all the learning materials, learning ecosystem, all the resources that we provide to our candidates, as I mentioned. And we also provide scholarships for our candidates, for access scholarship for those who may not be able to afford the program, and it is operated by CFA societies. So of course, for your country, Society Pakistan. And then for student scholarship, is available for students who are studying in our affiliated universities. You can always go to our website to know more about all these informations. For the scholarships, one key reminder is that if you want to apply for scholarship, you should not register for the exam first. So you have to wait until the scholarship results announced before you register for the exam. And the access scholarship will bring down the fees to $250. There's no enrollment fees required. So you only need to pay $250 for the first time. And then for student scholarships, that will bring down the price to $350. Also, the $450 enrollment fees will be waived. And make sure you go to our website for more details. So all the exam offerings into 2021 is closed. Has closed the registration. So here is the schedule for the 2020 exam. So you can see the February exam also already closed registration on the 26th, so 2 days ago. And then remember that with the exam, CBT exam, computer-based testing, we have two steps for the exam. First is registration, and then second is to scheduling your exam with your preferred test center. So if you register for the February exam, the scheduling deadline will be the 17th of November. And then for May, August, and November exam, you can have a glance of what will be the registration start. For the May exam already started, and August exam already started for registration for level 1 and level 2 and level 3. So level, of course, May is for level 1 and level 3, and then August is for level 1 and level 2. Make sure that you go to our website more frequent if you are interested in taking any of the exam, because the registration days or the scheduling days are always subject to change, depends on the test center capacity. Okay, let's move on to talk a little bit about CFA charter career. So as you can see, the different job across different disciplines that CFA charters are doing. In terms of the jobs done by charter holders, you can see on the left, there's a very healthy mix of people who do equities, fixed income, private equity. And in terms of job roles on the right, as not surprising, portfolio manager come first. So, but if you look at this chart on a high level, you can see the broad range of job roles served by CFA charter holder. And this is because the CFA program basically covers a breadth of transferable skills which can be used in many different job roles. Here's a quick snapshot of the top global employers, and you can see really all the world's leading financial institutions, including the big investment bank, accounting firms, asset management firms, and insurance companies. And more relevant to you will be the APAC top employers, HSBC, JP Morgan, UBS, all are listed here. And you can also see the other top employers in the other part of the world. And the idea is that more often the CFA charter is featured on financial job advertisements such as this on the slides. So the industry top employers basically call for the CFA charter, or for those who are progressing towards the definition. Employers really recognize the CFA charter as a reliable way to differentiate the most skilled and qualified job applicants for their job. So the CFA Institute also put a lot of effort in focus in developing materials to help you in career development, and this career resource page for students to help you to explore the 5-step for career planning. And here the QR code, you can take out your mobile phone to take a snapshot, and you can scan the code and then visit the page so to give you some tips on your career job search. Another resources we are providing is the job roles that describe the different job roles as a CFA charter holder, so you can know what are the different job roles which will be more suitable for you. And one final resource that is more recently published is the 3rd edition of the Career Success Book, published in partnership with Darden Business Publishing of University of Virginia. Examine the changing setting in which investment professionals find themselves managing their careers. So there is also a related career assessment that you can use your input to provide some career planning suggestion. So you can also scan this QR code to get to the page to let yourself know more about yourself in your career planning. And more resources for students, and don't forget this kind of research foundations resources which provide you our latest research, which should be help you to prepare some job interviews to give you more knowledge of the current market, and also another ethical decision-making framework, which help you to know on the dynamic when you face ethical dilemma, how you make your decision, which would be helpful when you're being asked this kind of question by your employers, especially in the finance settings. And now I'll pass the time to our moderator to share with you the next part of our presentation, more on the career insights by our panel.
Florence,
thank you.
Thank you so much. thank you so much for your part of the presentation and for highlighting the resources that are available to the students as they pursue the CFA program and the career options that are available to them. And I'm very pleased to be moderating this session here today. We've had this is, I believe, the third session that we're doing, and I think we are very pleased to have this as a recurring session because it's we've seen great response coming in from the students or those who are interested in the CFA program. Very happy to have this esteemed panel here with us today. It touches upon a lot of the jobs that Florence touched upon, whether in terms of equity markets, whether for corporates or treasuries within companies, or for banks that the CFA charter holder can aspire to have. A lot of these panelists are my close personal friends. I'm very pleased to have all of them here today. This is take it from me, a fantastic panel. My only regret is that we will not be able to give all of these panelists all of them can probably do this session themselves. A whole hour and a half will not be enough for them to share their experiences with you, but unfortunately we are constrained for time. So I will request all the panelists to keep their presentations down to roughly 8 minutes so that we can squeeze in about 15 minutes of Q&A at the end. So thank you for that, Florence, again. And with that, I would like to hand over to the first panelist of the day, Mustafa Pasha. He is the CIO at Lakson Investments, one of the most well-regarded local fund managers here in Pakistan Equities. So Mustafa, over to you.
Thank you very much, Raza, for that very generous introduction. So I will share my screen and I hope everybody can see it. Okay, so I hope everybody can see my screen. Okay, is it?
No, we can't see the screen as yet.
Okay, hold on just 1 second. Now I hope people can see it.
Perfect, all yours.
Okay, great. Okay, participants, my name is Mustafa Pasha. I'm the Chief Investment Officer at Lakson Investments. Lakson Investments is an asset management and an advisory, investment advisory firm based out of Karachi. Essentially, let me explain to you what an asset management company is. Our primary responsibility and function is the management of investment portfolios on behalf of our clients. So essentially, we are one of the major participants, asset managers and fund managers, as they're more commonly known, in the stock markets and the bond markets. And essentially, we are participating in these markets on behalf of our clients. Our clients may be, ranging from institutions, large corporates, they may be big retirement funds, they may be high net worth individuals, they may be retail investors with small investments and savings that they invest into our mutual funds. So essentially, our mandate is to take and pool that money and invest it in a manner that is consistent with the investment strategy and risk appetite for that particular asset class. So our fixed income investors, we are more prudent. That is, the risk there are lower. The loss of risk of losing capital is lower. Equities obviously are more aggressive. And it is our job to essentially manage that money in a way using our expertise. So that includes, doing our due diligence on, the macroeconomic conditions, looking at what sectors will do well, what sort of asset allocation we want to make, what sort of securities or stocks or companies that we want to include in the portfolio. And we basically allocate amongst different asset classes, which in Pakistan are predominantly the two major ones that dominate are equities and fixed income, but globally, commodities is a big one, real estate, alternatives, private equity, venture capital. And I'm sure a lot of you these days are very interested in cryptocurrencies as well. So that's also a asset class that has emerged over the last year or so. Locally, the companies that are involved are good examples of asset management companies are Lakson Investment itself, Al Mizan, NAFA funds, UBL funds, ABL Asset Management, HBL Asset Management, internationally, Fidelity, State Street, Vanguard, BlackRock, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs. I'm sure you guys have heard of all of these names. So all of them are involved in asset management. The important functions that we generally have within an asset manager are divided into the front office and the back office. The front office, we call it that because it is essentially client facing, and that would include the investments team, which consists of our portfolio managers and traders, our research team, which has our analysts, our sales and marketing teams, which we generally call business development, and the investor relations team, which deal with client queries and complaints. On the back office, we have our risk and compliance, who are responsible for monitoring our portfolios and monitoring the company's performance vis-a-vis the regulatory requirements and ensuring that we're not breaching any of those. Then we have our operations teams, which ensure settlement of all the trading that we do. Our finance team, which is essentially, there are bookkeepers, they calculate the returns, they calculate the portfolios, and they do a lot of our reporting to the SECP, to the state bank and other regulators. And obviously no company these days is complete without an IT department. So, and especially these days, digitization has become a very important aspect of the asset management and investments field. So the having a dynamic IT team is also very important. Now, what is the scope of the CFA within asset management? I'd say CFA charter holders generally would be engaged in the front office. So that would be on the investment side, portfolio management, investment strategy, research, due diligence, and obviously the analysis that comes with that on the macro side, sectoral analysis, fixed income analysis, and also risk management is also something. There's an affiliate program of the CFA, the FRM as well, which helps you in this. So essentially CFA charter holders are valued, especially in our industry. I know whenever we're looking to hire candidates, if somebody is pursuing the CFA or has the charter, that is something that we definitely give a added weightage to, and it definitely helps to open doors and get you through the different rounds of the interviews. Now, the important sort of skill set that you would want to have as if you want to work in this industry, obviously knowledge of the economy, of your capital markets, stock markets, bond markets, financial statement analysis if you want to get into research, valuation techniques, how to value businesses and companies, relationship management, not only of your clients, but also internally from your stakeholders, your colleagues, your teams, different departments. So those are perhaps the more hard skills, which some of those you would get from the CFA charter as well, and also from your university education. The soft skills that you would need, and these are perhaps equally or perhaps even more important, is that in our industry, because we are dealing on a day-to-day basis with markets that are fluctuating, that are very volatile, that respond to every sort of news flow and positive, negative sentiment, whatever is happening in the world, domestically, whether it has to do with politics, whether it has to do with the economy, whether it has to do with commodity prices, our markets are responding to that. So you have to have a very strong temperament. If you are emotional, or if you allow your emotions to sort of take control of your actions, that can have very bad outcomes for yourself and for your portfolios and for your clients. Secondly, you also have to be very curious about the world, right? So the best investors are generally those people who are always trying to connect the dots. You know, they read a lot, they do a lot of research, and not just reading pure academic investment material, but, you know, reading a wide variety of topics, whether it has to do with different sectors, new technologies, and then those managers are able to connect the dots to basically benefit their clients and their portfolios. With regards to pay scales, you guys would generally be well paid if you did your CFA charter holder and you were in this industry. Portfolio managers, you know, generally they can make anywhere from 200,000 to 700,000 a month. That's their fixed compensation. And they can, if they do well and generate alpha or outperformance versus the benchmarks, they can get bonuses, which could be significant as well. So it's a well-paid industry, but it is obviously a high-pressure job, especially if you're a portfolio management professional. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So for myself as the Chief Investment Officer, my job is essentially to provide direction and guidance to the team in terms of investment strategy. So my equity portfolio managers, my fixed income portfolio teams, the research teams, they basically will look to me as a sounding board and discuss investment ideas and investment strategies. So on a day-to-day basis, I'll be discussing the portfolios with them, the asset allocation with them, the markets with them. What should we do? What stocks should we buy? What should we sell? What sort of exposure we should have? What's our outlook for the economy? So having those meetings on a day-to-day basis, ensuring that whatever strategy we're developing based on our view and outlook after our research, that is actually being executed. So being in touch with market brokers, bankers, and treasury desks of various institutions, discussing and updating your clients. It's very important, especially when your markets are down. It is very important to keep in contact with your clients. Often, portfolio managers can disappear when the markets are down. They're only there when the markets are up. If you want to, have your clients trust you, then the day the markets crash, your first call should be to your client. Don't hide from them. And then obviously dealing with our internal stakeholders, our different departments. And obviously a lot of reading goes into it on a day-to-day basis. So you always need to keep up to date with whatever the latest news flow is, whatever the latest developments are in the economy, in the sectors and the companies. And of course, we're watching the screens all the time. The PSX, the stock exchange, has a live feed. So from 9:30 to 4 o'clock now, because the timings have changed, we're watching the screen and seeing what's happening. So that's what a normal day for me looks like. And I'll look forward to your questions later on in the session. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Mustafa, thank you for crisply putting all of this together. I mean, I'm glad you took us through a day in your life, took us through the skill sets you need, the hard skills, the soft skills, and I'm sure a lot of people are interested in the kind of pays that are on offer. So this is excellent advice, and I'm sure everybody will benefit from this. So thank you again. We now move over to our second speaker for, well, at least in terms of the panelists, and this is Jawad Shamim. I've had the pleasure of working with Jawad for some months, and he is currently the Vice President of Research at AFG Hermes, Pakistan. This is a brokerage firm. So when Mustafa talks about the fact that he's a fund manager and he will buy and sell stocks, you will need to buy and sell stocks through a brokerage firm. And I think Jawad's perspective is especially interesting because he is working for one of the few, if not the only foreign brokerage firm in Pakistan. So I'm sure he'll be able to add valuable insights. So Jawad, over to you.
Thank you, Raza. I hope my screen is visible.
We can see the screen. If you want to make it full screen, that'd probably be better, but yes, we can see your screen.
Great.
Yeah.
So
perfect.
thank you, Raza. Thank you, Raza, for that introduction. As Raza mentioned, I'm the Vice President of Research at EFG Hermes, one of the very few brokerage houses which works on a multinational level. So we are based out of Egypt, and we've got offices in over 15 countries. And similarly, we're covering more than 15 plus markets. So that's something, we've been doing. And as I mentioned, I've been associated with the sell side for most of my career. And that's what I've done throughout. When I speak on sell side research, I'm going to start with brokerage business as own. So brokerage business is basically an important function within the capital markets. So, as we've discussed about asset managers, every transaction that they're executed is executed on an exchange. And we as brokers are the ones who actually provide that platform through which we're going to, execute these transactions. And within brokerage, what I've done is research. I've done research for most of my career. So we are a function within brokerage. And as mentioned, that we mostly cater to clients. So it's a function where we actually sell our research to the clients to allow them to make a well-informed investment decision. Fortunately enough, we've seen interest pick up from the retail side as well in the past few years. But before it was predominantly the institutional clients that were our major clients. But somehow in recent past, we've seen interest pick up from the retail side. Somehow they've realized how important this research function is. And as I mentioned, research is a branch within a brokerage business. We, through our research, kind of help in putting a product in front of asset managers, and through which asset managers would prefer you as a brokerage client. So that's how important research becomes. How good your calls are, how good your reports are, and how good your interaction is with these companies kind of decides at the end of the day how much an asset manager would prefer you. This is completely different to buy side, and this is very important to understand because Here, when you are working as a sell side analyst, you're actually working on a research, you're actually working on a product which then it's sold to clients, number one. Number two, you send out reports, you come up with calls, you must have, you would have, seen reports coming from different houses, coming with the buy, sell recommendations. So that's the first difference. You're open, you're talking to clients, you are not, you're not part of one company that, works on its portfolio. A buy side analyst would typically be working on something and then showing it to their own company, but we as sell side analysts are reportable to a lot of clients and series of clients. As far as the companies are concerned, within local, it's one that I work for, EFG Hermes. Then we've got big names like Equities, Securities, JS Global, RF Abib, and KSB. Internationally, as I mentioned, we're covering more than 15 markets. So EFG Hermes is an international brokerage house. Then we've got big names like JP Morgan, Credit Suisse, Goldman Sachs, HSBC. Important roles within brokerage, as I mentioned, research is front office work, directly talking to the clients, and then we've got sales. So every asset manager would typically be talking to the sales guys, and within sales we've kind of got two departments. Firstly are the hardcore traders, the ones who are going to be executing orders, but the other division where you will see CFA coming, playing a role there is the salesperson who are talking to the clients, who are coming up with the pitch, and with collaboration with the research department are going to the clients, pitching the story, thesis, and trying to attract the business. And then marketing department, with increasing digital age we are in, with all this Facebook, Instagram, social media, we've got more focus on marketing department coming in to because fortunate enough that we're seeing competition pick up in the Pakistan brokerage industry. And I think it's more important as well when we see the numbers, the penetration in the capital markets in Pakistan is still quite low, and this marketing department becomes very important, which works with research and sales to create awareness in the audience, so that they can they be aware of how important the stock market or any other capital market is. In back office, we've got important revision settlement is something that works every day to settle what transactions being done on the exchange in a day. Finance, risk and compliance, and more importantly the IT department that makes a very important integral part of our company. As far as pay scale is concerned, this is as far as the entry level is concerned, this is very important to discuss here. Don't be discouraged with the starting number, specifically in the sell side research. When you go for an interview, when you get a job, you will be comparing it with other of your batchmates who are going to be working for the companies, and there could be slight discouragement there, where you speak of the entry level. But when you look at the industry, I would say it's kind of a sky is the limit. When you say that word, it kind of applies to our industry. Firstly, because the growth is exponential. As soon as you learn the sectors, companies, and about the market, your growth is phenomenal. What I've seen throughout my career, number one. So starting pay could be slightly low on a comparative basis, but the pickup is much stronger. And secondly, if you're starting with research, you can learn the art of investment. So we've read a lot of books about it, but how important investment is, this is a prime platform through which you can learn as to how important this whole function is and how you can apply in your lives as well, in addition to helping your clients with. The packages for a sales department, as like every other industry, will differ from our packages. So they come up with a commission structure which varies house to house, but somehow really it's encouraging on a various level. And the way volumes start to pick up in the market, the more turnover in the market, the more commission you are able to make it. We will discuss at the very earlier very introductory slides as to how much CFA kind of becomes important in this whole scenario. To the time I recall, I've been hiring, been part of hiring as well. And when I used to, give interviews, we've seen clear preference for CFA, and it's because of the fact that we know how much this program overall helps you and kind of, tries to equip you with what's required in the in this particular field. I think skills and areas for expertise needed for this is something that Mustafa has discussed in detail. One thing that I can add more to is when he mentioned about temperament, as I mentioned, we are dealing with a set of clients based from, big institutions to retail and other high net worth individuals. That really comes in play. And the temperament thing works in both ways. Firstly, different client sets will have different set of expectations from you, number one. And number two, we are operating in a dynamic environment, both internationally and locally. There's so much happening. So you have to be, getting that information, deciphering it, and putting it forward into your on your desk for your clients. Lastly, typical day, reading up the news, what's happened overnight in the day, trying to figure out how it's going to impact the investments and the market. And then morning meetings are very important, where we discuss with sales as to how to present it to our clients. And I think one more most important thing is reach out to your clients. So they are the ones, for whom you're doing the research, and they're the ones you reach out to them. It's not something, once in a day or once in a week. It's an ad hoc basis. You will be, continuously reaching them out and helping them out with the investments. Looking forward, to the Q&A session if there are any at the end.
Jawad, thank you so much for this. I think this was both Mustafa and you, I think, displayed or brought forward the passion that you clearly have for your jobs, and that is, I think, the strongest sort of advertisement for the work that you do, which is important. So obviously, Mustafa spoke about portfolio management on the buy side. Jawad is an analyst at a sell side brokerage firm. It's a very symbiotic relationship. These two firms, these two roles are in close coordination every day. And my experience has, of course, also been on this side of the markets as well. So it's something that is very relatable. But we now move to our third panelist, and this is Bilal, Ahmed. And the reason I mentioned of this is because his role is slightly in contrast, right? So he sits at Engro Corporation. Bilal has worn a lot of hats during his career, but currently is the GM funding strategy and projects at Engro. And he will be able to tell you stuff that even I would be very interested to know, how he uses the CFA charter in his line of work, and what advice he has for all of us. So Bilal, over to you.
I hope I'm audible right now.
Bilal, we can see your screen and we can hear you, but if it might help if you speak a little louder. You're a little inaudible. It's a little. Now it's better. Now it's better.
Wonderful. Thank you, Raza. Thank you for the introduction. Yes, Raza, this is a new industry where CFAs are not very common, but perhaps that trend is catching up. And I had the good fortune of starting my career from an asset management firm, and then eventually moved on to Engro way back 10 years ago. Little did I know that I would end up spending a lot of my time and my knowledge that I gained from the CFA qualification into my process here, which was unlike my expectation. So when we talk about corporate firms, there are a number of areas where you get to apply your CFA knowledge in particular. So broadly speaking, there will be three different segments where you get to apply your knowledge specifically. One is the usual business analyst segment, which is normally known as a finance and planning segment. It's also known as performance management elsewhere, where the duties of a typical analyst is to look at the overall economy, look at businesses, identify those factors which will affect your key business decision making. Now, whether that be relating to the product pricing that you do, whether that relates to the procurement decisions that are there, whether that relate to your sales strategy, because at the end of the day, your objective is to maximize your profits, you see? And profits are a function of those variables which are governed by financial principles. So you need to have a very clear idea of how those financial and economic principles are affecting your business variables. That's the most important aspect. Number two, a typical analyst has a very important role to play in the target setting of companies, the performance evaluation that you do, and the investment that each company puts in. So at the end of the day, what do asset managers or brokerage firms do? They look at the individual companies, they invest in those companies on the stock market, they enter a stock at a certain price, they have the decision to exit at certain prices, they have a certain strategy out there. Now, all those investment decisions are based on the strategies which those companies are developing. Most companies are in a process of investing into their plants and machinery. They are investing into their businesses. They're investing into their supply chains. And that is what generates value. So this investment analysis compared to relatively shorter term or immediate return businesses are relatively on a longer term basis. Investments in this cycle usually take multiple years to have the returns yielded in the form of cash flows. Last but not the least, one of the major aspect that this business analyst community does is to understand the business model well and to identify ideas and those opportunities where value could be generated. This is one of the most important aspects where CFA qualification could be really well applied. The second aspect is the treasury segment, where the typical CFA qualification gets applied very much so. The first and the foremost is placement of surplus funds. Each company has a lot of, at times you have a sizable amount of surplus funds that needs to be placed in avenues which A, maximize returns, B, minimize risk, and C, meet the cash flow requirements of the company. Number two, managing the balance sheet well and hence the overall cost of capital, which is funding the business. This involves raising capital, and when you talk about raising capital, the world is entirely open. You have TFCs to raise your monies from, you have sukuks, you have direct bank lending. You can go and conduct an IPO on the stock exchange. You can talk about ordinary shares, you can talk about preference shares. All of those instruments are available in our market to be deployed. You are also responsible for managing financial risks. Now, three major risks that come out, which treasury managers are usually responsible for. Number one, interest rate risk. Number two, the foreign exchange risk. And number three, the commodity price risk. Now, all of these risks are very much visible in the world that we're living in today. We're talking about a situation where interest rates have sizably gone up in the bond markets over the past few weeks. We have seen a significant amount of volatility in the FX rates. The PKR has depreciated significantly. This is more importantly visible when you are also involved in trade of your products. So if you are importing a lot of your raw materials or you're trading commodities from abroad, you tend to open the LCs or you tend to establish the LCs in foreign currencies. So assume that you establish an LC at $100, and if the exchange rate moves from 150 to 170, your cost of business goes up. And that is a risk that needs to be managed, the financial risk. Adding on other roles like supply chain, financing, obviously the back-end office roles also come in, which involve managing the external trade, cash collections and all. This leads me to the next aspect of work, which corporates do very commonly now in Pakistan as well, are the special projects that come to finance. You have the options of buying back your shares. You can merge your company, portfolio companies with some other company. You can acquire companies, which is getting pretty common in Pakistan. There is a concept of corporate portfolio management which exists in the entire scheme of things, whereby you look at companies not only as companies, but also as assets which you can invest into and divest from. You have the entire world of investor relations, which helps you communicate your plans better to the stock market, which values a company at the end of the day. Now, how does a typical career profile looks like in any corporate? So you start off with the analyst category. You develop over the years to become a team lead. That helps you graduate in a few years to a department manager level, and then eventually in the highest level of financial position in the company tends to be the chief financial officer, and you graduate that. So different size companies have different principles and timelines to being a CFO. On the pay scale side, the numbers are pretty market competitive. At Engro, we've had opportunity to hire people at higher rates, at market rates. But the important point to note is that it's a fungible market. If you are a skilled individual, you should be able to get the right value out of the qualification and that's an important part of the entire journey that you do. Now, which type of firms apart from Engro that I have the good fortune of working for require these positions? So in the entire slate of companies are open there. So you have Lucky Cement in Pakistan, you have K Electric, ICI, some of the ones that I've mentioned here, you have PSO, Pakistan State Oil, you have oil and gas companies. Globally speaking, the big names that you hear, Exxon, Microsoft, Facebook, Marginal for them, and any company that you can hear of will always require a lot of financial skills and roles that they need to fill. And perhaps apart from the accounting and taxation roles, which also fall in the financial sector, CFAs are perhaps the best suited, in my humble opinion, to fill the non-accounting and non-taxation roles. So it's a very important qualification that you all should very much focus on. Now, how does a day look like for me? So I tend to divide my day into segments. The first segment of my day is a plan for the day, whereby I need to understand what things I need to achieve today. How can I help my team achieve their goals? What kind of resources I need to make available to them, whether that be in terms of my own time, whether that be in terms of any external support I need to get for them. And just planning the day out, reading the newspapers, seeing what's happening in the local economy, seeing what's happening in the global economy. It's very important as somebody who manages funding in the company to know what's happening in the world out there. So reading is one of the most important aspects that come along with it. Number two, you need to get your work done, whether that's working on a presentation or a model or sitting with your team to discuss some ideas or reviewing their work. That's important. Each day, you need to spend some time getting the work out of the way. Third, and perhaps the most important, is the collaborative process that happens in the company. So the company I work for is a huge one. We have more than 100 people in our company. There's a lot of hustle and bustle throughout the day. It's very important, if you need to get your work done, something that we discussed on the first slide, all the things that we need to get done, we need to have the right relationships within the company to get the work done. So there will be a time when you work as an individual contributor, but soon you will come into a position where collaborative work, you will need help from others to achieve your work, to complete your work. And it's important to build relationships to be able to get your work done. So it's important that you segment some time out of your day to do that part of the work as well. Now, it's not always a good idea to pack your day in advance with all the work that you need to do, because there are many a times things that you need to do which are unforeseen. There are so many ad hoc queries that come to you, some ad hoc calls that you tend to get, some people who tend to visit you. So you need to have some time of the day sectioned out for some ad hoc activities as well. So if those things happen, you should be able to wrap things up by the day end, which usually the work demands are slightly longer in Engro and companies like Engro. But the most important part that I would want to point out here, and as an individual, it's very important for us to realize, is the fact that we need to have, and I think Mustafa pointed that out very well, we need to have the right temperament and attitude towards our work. If the attitude towards our work is positive, we will be able to cover for any work that comes our way. Nothing is impossible. Nothing is difficult if we have the right attitude. We are able to pull in the right resources, and developing that trait in yourself is something that you should learn and should focus time and effort in order to be able to do that. So that's it from mine. Wish you all the best and looking forward to the Q&A section.
Bilal, this is excellent. Thank you so much for that. I enjoyed that a lot, and I hope we will be able to get you back in future career sessions as well. So this was excellent. We now, thank you. So we now move on to our second Bilal on the list of panelists. This is Bilal Khan, and Bilal is actually a returning speaker, and I think I found his presentation, the last session, particularly engaging and informative. And so I'm sure the audience will agree with me when they hear him. So Bilal, over to you. Bilal, of course, if I haven't mentioned already, is the finance head, HomeCare division at Unilever.
Thank you so much, Raza. Just a quick check. Is my screen visible? And am I audible?
Yep, you're all set.
Okay, great. So thank you so much, Raza, for the invitation and also for the kind introduction. I think a lot in the context of corporate finance have already been covered by Bilal, so I will try to keep it short and focus on any additional parts related to specifically FMCG finance. So a lot of times I have, because I'm a teacher as well, so a lot of time I have students and juniors coming to me and asking me about the relevance of CFA qualification in the FMCG context. So what I will try is in the next 3 to 4 minutes, I will try to break the myth that CFA qualification is not relevant for FMCG sector. And I will try to shed some light on its importance and its the key role which it plays within this sector. So when we talk about CFA qualification is basically about learning investment management. And for investment management, two things which we need are funds and clients. And so if you look at the FMCG sector have a huge size of funds with a large client base. So you have about 2 trillion tons of funds of being invested and being managed. And you have a client base of about 200 million or over 200 million, which is the population of Pakistan, and growing at 11% per annum. And there are huge investments being made into product development, geographical expansion, and distribution landscape. And guess what? All these investments and all these management of funds require someone to be able to analyze the value creation which it will have, and to support the decisions with respect to investment. And obviously then CFA qualification becomes very relevant. So what FMCG sector do is that we invest into anything and everything which you consume from waking up till you sleep. Let it be your toothpaste before breakfast, let it be your breakfast, let it be morning tea, your soap that you use, shampoos, food or dinner, or the ice cream after dinner at night. So we are investing into anything and everything. And I think what differentiates FMCG investment analyst role is that you do not only look at the numbers, or you do not have to only analyze numbers, but you have to analyze the changing trends and observe the changing trends as well. And you have to understand the consumer behavior as well. You have to understand the psyche of your clients as well. So it is a very unique combination of traditional and behavioral finance, which we get to use, or which we get to learn and apply in the FMCG investment management. And a few prominent multinational companies and local companies within FMCG sector include Unilever, Nestle, P&G, National Foods, EBM, and others. So this is about overall FMCG sector and how it is relevant for investment analysts. Now moving on to the role of financial analyst within FMCG sector, within FMCG company. So I think an interesting fact about FMCG finance is, I think some is on unmute. Yeah, thank you. So and I think an interesting fact about finance in FMCG is that it does not operate in silo. It is embedded all across the value chain. So starting from procurement, when you procure raw material, you need to perform economic analysis, commodity analysis, forecast commodity prices, forecast foreign exchange changes, which Bilal was also talking about. And then you need to hedge the risk with respect to all that. And for that, you need to use derivatives. You need to perform NPV analysis to find out where to procure from, what are the alternate sources of procurement. And guess what? All this actually requires deep knowledge of investment analysis. And I think CFA qualification equips us with this. So you can be a procurement finance partner. And then moving on, the next step is manufacturing. Again, in manufacturing, you are making huge investments into manufacturing automation, into geographical expansion, into product expansion, into vehicles, etc. And again, all that again requires investment analysis and a business case preparation and analysis to take the right decisions for creating value for the company. And if you do not have the right people in place here, then guess what? The company will be losing value. So again, CFA qualification is very critical in this next leg as well. Moving further into the value chain, then you have distribution and retail. There are huge investments being made into trade channels, into development of new channels, into getting market share in the existing channel. And also not only for us, we also partner with our stakeholders like distributors and others to help them maximize their return on investment as well. So not only maximizing return on investment for ourselves, but also understanding other business models and enabling our stakeholders to maximize their returns as well. Again, investment analysis role is very critical, and CFA qualification is of significant help here. And not only that, then talking about other functions which Bilal have already talked about in detail, like treasury, like mergers and acquisitions, like financial planning and analysis, like category finance, anything and everything throughout this value chain requires investment analysis. And then you can imagine the value which investment analysts would be creating across this value chain. And again, CFA qualification obviously supports with all of this and helps provide you with the tools and the right learning to add value in all of these segments. Key skills required to be in finance team of an FMCG. I think one of the key skills is good observation, and then obviously strong analytical abilities and innovative mindset. Because here you are not only working with the Excels and the financial models, but here your value creation comes from generating the idea, measuring the idea's output and measuring the return which you can get from that idea, and then implementing it. So only being able to measure the value would not be enough. You should be able to observe and identify opportunities as well, and then lend them as well. Then again, knowledge of micro and macroeconomics, financial analysis and valuation techniques, and data analytics. All of this is very important because the quantum of data which is being created and which is available now, it won't be possible for you to get a competitive edge over others if you are not able to interpret that data well, and if you are not able to use that data well. And the last and the most important skill is, I think, collaboration and leadership. Because we are collaborating all across functions with marketing team, with supply chain team, with customer development team, with the strategy team, and everyone. We do not work in silos here. So if you are not good at maintaining relationships, and if you are not good at collaborating with others, then you will struggle in the FMCG sector, or particularly in organizations like ours, which is Unilever. So collaboration and leadership obviously is of significant importance. I think I would also like to highlight that it is not that I am only talking about its relevance, but if you look at the facts, if I talk about the Unilever alone where I work, there are at least 10 people who have passed all CFA exams, and there are another at least 10 who are taking some CFA exam, let it be level 2, level 3, level 1, or whatever. And also Unilever, being an FMCG, pioneered the CFA candidates training program in collaboration with CFA Society Pakistan. And you can imagine that if FMCG is investing so much of time in recruiting CFA candidates or coming up with CFA training programs, then obviously it would, you can gauge the relevance of CFA qualification for them. With respect to pay scales, good starting pay scales, diverse functional exposures, rotation across multiple functions and across multiple countries as well. You get to do projects in different countries with multicultural exposure. So I think it provides you not only the exposure within finance, but exposure of supply chain, customer development, marketing, and different countries and multiple cultures as well through different projects. Now, the last thing, which is how a day in the life of financial analyst at FMCG look like. So it starts with morning tea or coffee, whatever you like better, and casual chit chat. And this casual chit chat is kind of important in the sense because it helps you set the relationships and have those and build those informal relationships with the other team members and the cross-functional teams, which help you get your done later. Then it goes into intense discussions about observations, about trends, consumer behaviors, about opportunities which are emerging, about economic changes which are happening. For example, crude going up, impacting our profitability. For example, inflation going off the roof, impacting the consumer's affordability. For example, it could be about a new product coming in. It could be about a behavior someone observed. It could be about a change someone observed. And it could be about launching something new. It could be about changing the ways of working. So productive debates and healthy arguments, I think that takes a significant portion of our time during the day. And obviously then lunch, and then financial analysis and valuation, which is again an important part. Once you have identified the opportunities, once you have discussed the opportunities, once you know what to evaluate, what to do, then you go on to analyzing it and valuing it. That is scenario planning, risk return assessment, NPV analysis, data analytics, and it could be anything. And I think the key thing of interest here is that these investment analyses are very diverse and are very unique. So maybe someday you are performing a valuation of a new brand, or maybe sometime you are performing the financial analysis or investment analysis for a decision to invest into manufacturing plant or automation, or maybe another day you are valuing a startup out of nowhere. So I think that the key differentiating factor here is that there is so much to do and there are so much diverse opportunities that it keeps your interest in the work. And then once you have decided perform the valuation, then your job doesn't end here. You have to negotiate with the stakeholders within and outside the organization. You have to collaborate with them in order to land it and take the decision. And once you have taken the decision, you action it and you create value and maximize the return on investment for shareholders. So it is not only about financial analysis and valuation, it is really about negotiation, collaboration, discussions, observations, relationships, and all that. And all that combined, I think, is the key skill set which is required to be a finance leader within any FMCG organization. So this is it from my end. If there are any questions, happy to take it in the Q&A session.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you for bringing to us the perspective from an FMCG and a very well regarded and large FMCG. Before I hand over the mic to the last speaker, just a reminder that you can put up your questions in the chat box, and in the interest of time, I encourage you to start putting up your questions in the next few minutes. I already see a lot of questions on the Access Scholarship, and we will ask them at the end, but do start putting up your questions for us to ask at the end. And now over to the last speaker, but certainly not last but not least, Imtiaz Gadar, who is somebody that I have had the privilege of learning from myself. And Imtiaz has worked as a sell-side analyst before moving on to the buy side, and then working for a bank as well. Imtiaz is the head of capital markets at Bank Alfalah, and he is our last panelist. So Imtiaz, all yours. The floor is all yours.
Thanks, Raza. I hope my screen is visible.
We can see your desktop, I believe, or yeah, there you go. Yeah, perfect. Perfect.
She is there. Okay. So yeah, thank you so much, Raza. As Raza mentioned, I head capital markets at Bank Alfalah, and the area I'm going to speak on is going to be investment banking. Obviously, a lot of the financial jargons have already been discussed by the prior speakers. But if one was really to break it down onto the basics, so what does investment banking do? It's basically reallocating capital within the financial system. So in a nutshell, it matches available resources with capital requirements in the system. So what the investment bankers do basically is just find out, okay, who needs the capital and who has the capital, and for to match them is really what the investment banker does. Now, how can this matchup happen? So there are a couple of ways where resources can go from one person to the other. The very basic is obviously debt or loans, as you call it in common terminology. So there are different ways that investment bankers make one institution or one individual lend their money out to different projects or different people who need that money. So this could be by the way of syndications. What are syndications? This is like, when we are dealing with someone like Bilal in Engro, obviously the capital requirements are so huge that one bank cannot meet them. So banks tie up or institutions tie up and try and meet those requirements. Bilateral fundings are for smaller projects. I'll not go into the details of all of these, but some of these are very self-explanatory by the very nature of their name. But obviously what makes it more exciting is that investment bankers also get involved in equity, which obviously can make different shapes and forms, and obviously the sensitivity of making someone make an equity investment into another company obviously goes higher. So the complexities there also increase. So again, there are different ways where you can raise further capital from the existing holders of an entity. So that's called rights. At times, as I think one of the speakers, I think Bilal mentioned that at times you will be an owner of a business, and you will think that the time is right to exit that business. So that's where an investment banker steps in and helps you find a buyer for that business. So here you're arranging the capital for an existing sponsor or a company that holds a stake in a company. Privatization is obviously very similar, where the government of Pakistan or any government for that matter is looking for buyers for the stakes that they have in different companies, so that they can raise the required capital that they need for different needs. At times, the resources that I mentioned are not necessarily going to be cash. Sometimes it makes sense to two companies to just merge, or one company to acquire the other company. So that's called M&A advisory, and that's where investment bankers again come in, where they help you buy, acquire, merge with other entities. So again, the point being that for ensuring that the growth of the organization continues, Investment bankers help you arrange the required resources, whether they be in the form of cash or kind or whatever is required. So that's a brief base on what is done in Pakistan. I've also bifurcated this in terms of how the regulatory landscape is, and that's something you can look at later, or we can go into that into the question and answer session. What are the kind of employers that will be interested to hire people who have an interest in investment banking or want to pursue a career? So obviously you have some of the leading brokerage houses in Pakistan all have arms that cater to investment banking, includes the entity that Raza works for, Intermarket Securities. So those kind of entities all have investment banking arms and are looking for individuals who want to excel in this space. But that's just not it. All the leading banks in Pakistan also have investment banking arms. Similarly, the DFIs also deal in this business, and we have a few international players in the market as well who are here through the rep offices. For example, JP Morgan has a rep office here, whereas Alfalah CLSA, which is a joint venture between CLSA and Alfalah, that's also there. And Jawad, for example, is here from EFG. So that's another example. So I've just mentioned these entities as an example that this is the kind of places one can expect to work for. What is the kind of work that's done here? So what I've done is I've bifurcated this into try to bring in the journey of someone joining as an investment bank and how he progresses over the years, and tied it up with the kind of work that's required. But I've deliberately made it the other way around because it really flows from the top. What CFA brings to the investment banking profession, or what the driving ethos should be for an investment banking shop, is kind of very
Raza, I think there's some internet connection problem.
Yes, I was just trying to figure out if it was an issue at my end, but it seems as if we have lost, but we can still see a screen. I can maybe text him quickly and see if we can get Imtiaz back.
While we are waiting for him to come back, we can make it maybe tackle. Oh, he's back.
Well, he's back. Imtiaz back. Imtiaz, sorry, we lost you in the middle, right while you were about to dive into the the stages of our life cycle. So maybe you can share your screen again. And
can
sorry,
you see my screen now?
No, we can hear you now. We can see your screen now. You're good.
Okay, sure. Sorry about that. I don't know, is it transition to the full screen, or you can just see my desktop now?
No, it's fine. Go.
Okay. So I was just trying to run you through the whole cycle. I was just saying that I'm deliberately not going to go into the level that where the fresh analyst can expect to start off from. I'm going to deliberately keep it to the level where we are talking about what the investment banking shop does. So of the different things that we do within an investment banking shop, as I was mentioning, that once it is identified that there's a company X that has a certain capital requirement, and there is an individual Y who has that capital to be provided for the growth needs of that company. Now here is where the whole CFA curriculum kind of comes in, and that's where you need to understand not just how to understand client needs. You also need to understand the risk appetite of both the parties involved, that the person raising the capital and the person providing the capital, what is their risk appetite? So all of the things that you study in the CFA come in handy. You should have a knowledge of the different instruments that are available. You should have a knowledge of the different structures that you can create, and more importantly, you should know what is the right solution for everyone involved from an ethical perspective as well. It is time you will face those situations where it is very easy to make a quick buck by selling a product to someone who does not have the risk appetite for that kind of product. So you have to make sure that you are applying all of those things that you've learned in the CFA curriculum. They all come in handy for you to make that right, ethical, suitable solution for everybody involved in the transaction. But just from a more people who join fresh, one, they should all understand this, because this is going to be very important as they progress up the curve, the way I've mentioned, as you put in the years into the business. But really what is expected of people starting off, fresh CFAs or people who are just in the process of doing their level 3s, what is really expected of them is to have a very strong grasp on modeling and understanding the documentation that is related to different transactions, because that's where you start off with. That's the base. And if you form that base right, this whole progression that you see that takes you from year 0 of experience to year 15 of experience and makes you the a team lead. This is where the base will be formed, and this is where you progress up the curve and go up there. And basically at some stage in your career, you end up leading the team where you have to take care of all of these functions involved in the whole investment banking process. Finally, traits that are needed for success. Raza, can you see the last slide, or it's not visible?
No, we can see it.
Okay, so in terms of trait needed for success, I mean, some of these things have already been mentioned by the other speakers, that you need to have a knack for numbers, but I think I'll highlight a couple of them here, which are very, very particular to investment banking, especially is interpersonal skills, because they are very important, because they basically determine whether you have the capability to be able to present your ideas, to be able to network and get those leads in terms of what are the available opportunities in the market and what are you able to do, and then to be able to present those ideas to convince both the parties that this is the right thing to do. Another thing that comes in really handy, and we've seen this especially from an international experience perspective, is when you have skills to speak multiple languages. I mean, over the years, we've seen these couple of opportunities come up in the last 10, 15 years, specifically, like people who understood Mandarin and could really give exposure to the Chinese market. That was something that really came in handy as a skill for an investment banker. And similarly, now you see a lot of ads coming up for Middle Eastern jobs which say that someone who understands Arabic will be preferred. So these are the things that can come in handy. Last but not the least, I mean, obviously, it is considered one of the funkier jobs on the street, that, okay, I'll become an investment banker and make top dollars, but you have to have patience for that to materialize and reach that stage where you get all of those bonuses that you've always heard about that investment bankers make. Finally, this is a job that requires a lot of flexibility, which is why putting in how a typical day in the life of an investment banker looks like is very difficult, because you need to be flexible. You need to be able to respond to client needs as and when needed. It doesn't mean that you don't have a life at all. It just means that you have to have much more flexibility and much more, you don't know what day is going to bring what kind of challenges for you. So people who really like a structured day, or who really want to have a routine set to the day, investment banking can throw that routine off with multiple challenges that come in with any transaction. So you just have to be mentally prepared for that. And, so that will make you well prepared to go in when you have that mindset, rather than going in and saying, okay, this is the set template I'm going to get to follow. So I think those are the key important things that I wanted to share regarding the investment banking thing. Over to you, Raza, and happy to take questions when we reach the Q&A stage.
Thank you so much for that, Imtiaz. That was very, very interesting. In investment banking, I can probably, wouldn't be unfair to say that very, very rigorous, right? So I mean, a lot of all of these jobs are rigorous, but I think investment banking especially so. But that's where the big bucks are. So look, before we move into the questions for the panelists, Florence, maybe you can take the first question. There have been a lot of questions on the access scholarship, and obviously the CFA for all its benefits and for all the payback that it has is of course an expensive program, right? So there's a lot of questions on the access scholarship. If there's any color or information you can give on that.
Access scholarship is actually operated by society level. So I think I'm not the one to give the answer, but student scholarship that are awarded for students in affiliated universities will be taken care by CFA Institute. So access scholarship is the scholarship that operate on the society level. I don't know if Jawad or anyone can give more information on that.
Yeah, so I think CFA Institute is revising its policy so that portal is not open right now, but it will be shortly, as I understand. Thank you.
Just one thing to remind students: if you want to get a scholarship, remember, don't register for the exam, because we don't offer any refund. So once you register, you will not be eligible to apply for any scholarship on the platform.
Got it. There are two questions that I'll probably just handle myself very quickly. A, can a non-business major obviously with some finance courses get a job in the finance sector? Look, that's exactly where the CFA will step in and add to your credentialing and your profile. So if you haven't gotten a formal finance background, but you do sit for your CFA, which you can, it's it's not something that you can't do if you've taken some finance courses. Then it'll obviously you can land a job in the financial sector, but of course it helps that you are giving your exams while you are in the finance sector, because as Florence mentioned, this is the you need those relevant work experience, and the time needed. My personal experience is that good rigorous up to 6 months is good enough to study, but of course it's how you use those 6 months, so it differs for everybody. But yeah, I mean, 6 months, I suppose, is a good roundabout number that we can work with in terms of the time you need to prepare for the exams. There is a question, and maybe I can direct this to Bilal Ahmed Engro. I mean, this is a chartered accountant and he's working in a manufacturing concern. Is the CFA relevant for me? And I think you touched upon this a little bit in your presentation, but it might be worthwhile to Bilal, if you could just maybe share your thoughts on this question.
Thank you. So I think if you
Bilal, sorry, your voice is a little inaudible.
Is that fine now?
Yeah.
Wonderful. So yeah, if you're working for a manufacturing concern, I think CFA will be pretty relevant to you as well. So when you talk about manufacturing organizations, there are a lot of decisions which are financial based. You are procuring your raw materials, you are selling your raw materials, you're processing your raw materials. What price do you purchase at? What price do you sell at? What are the modes of financing for sales, or for the matter that the raw materials that you purchase? What are the times that you should be producing your product on? When should you maximize your production? When should you reduce your production? What should your sales strategy be? So there are a lot of decisions that tend to happen within a manufacturing firm. I had the good opportunity of working at, my previous role was with Engro Polymer and Chemical. It's a hardcore manufacturing firm. But there were so many decisions that we had to take in terms of which were effectively financial decisions, which help you in making informed and better decisions. When to invest in your plant, when to divest from certain aspects of your business. These are those questions which are asked in any manufacturing firm. With the CFA qualification, your ability to answer those questions simply skyrockets. You have all the tools available with you, which allow you all the ammunition that you need to come up with very precise, controlled, and relatively comprehensive answers to those questions.
Bilal, thank you for that. The next question I will direct to both Mustafa and Jawad, because they're specifically asking about jobs in the investment sector. And they're asking, look, they're a fresh graduate and they haven't cleared any level, but they're a candidate. Their CV says that they're a candidate in the CFA program. Will that help them get the job or at least an interview?
Thanks, Raza. So I think the question is, okay, for a fresh graduate. Okay, so look, we're obviously, as companies and as a sector, we do expect or value experience and sort of that practical application of your knowledge that you do gain from the CFA or during your university studies. However, that doesn't mean that fresh candidates or graduates are not considered for positions. Obviously, I think in a company like mine, for example, we do hire fresh graduates, and we do have a couple of fresh graduates working with us on the research and investment side. So normally they would start in a sort of trainee position. So they would be like a junior analyst, and they would basically be working either with a mid-level or a senior analyst who would be teaching them the ropes, getting them up to speed. And then maybe for the first 6 months, they would just be sort of in a sort of learning phase before they may be assigned a sector or some more complicated work. I think from the fresh graduate perspective, I interview a lot of candidates when we are looking to hire. So the interview process is very important. Obviously what you have on your CV is important. What school you come from, what your grades are, what qualifications you carry, and what your background is, but how you put that across in interview is doubly important, because a good CV can be wasted if you're not doing well and putting across your case well in the face-to-face interview. Be inquisitive, be curious, ask questions, do your research on the company that you're interested in or that you're interviewing with. Often, I find candidates, I will always ask candidates, and I'll ask them multiple times through the interview process, do you have any questions about the company, about the role, about anything that you want to ask? And, unfortunately, a lot of times candidates will say that, no, I have no questions. So, especially in my field, because it's a high pressure field, and, I'm sure a lot of other, the jobs and speakers here can attest to that. So you want people who have that spark, because you know their temperament and their emotions are going to be tested. So you want somebody who has a real passion for this sort of work, right? Because essentially for fund managers, investment professionals, you know, your mind is always working. It's not like purely a 9-to-5 job. You know, when you go home, international markets are on, right? So it's not like things ever shut down. You know, so we're always on the go. We're always looking at things from that sort of critical, analytical aspect. So when we're hiring somebody, whether they're a fresh graduate or experienced person, we're looking for that spark and that passion. You know, so often I'll ask people, do you read the newspaper? What can you tell me about the economy? You know, even if you're a fresh graduate, and often people won't have an answer, they won't have any idea. So my then perspective is if you're interested in a career like this, you need to have a basic interest in reading about this stuff on your own, not just because it's part of your job. And that's the only way to be successful at this job. If you're interested in it and you want to do it, and you independently are interested in it, then you'll go far, I think, in this industry.
Perfect, Mustafa. Thank you so much for that. That was, I think, very, very useful on a personal level. I think, obviously, in the interest of time, I suppose we won't be able to ask a lot of questions. Bilal Khan over at Unilever. I mean, this is a question maybe you can assist us with. This is somebody, Adarsh, is working in finance and accounts, and he's asking if it's possible to transition into a financial analyst position, or is he now sort of shoehorned into the role that he's already working in, or do you think he can make that transition to a financial analyst or a business analyst? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So Adarsh, I think that any kind of experience is relevant. Obviously, going into an analyst role, accounting experience would not be as relevant as other investment analyst or analyst experience roles, but it is still relevant. I think in the context of FMCG, generally, most of the biggest FMCGs, and I will talk more about Unilever because that's what I have experienced. Generally, they do not hire you for a specific role or for a specific position. They hire you as a part of team, and then you are rotated into multiple roles after every 2 to 3 years. So even if you have an accounting background or an accounting experience, you can enter the organization at maybe an accounting role and then get rotated to other roles and continue to get rotated. So I think that having accounting background or accounting experience shouldn't be a barrier to your entry or to your success in any financial analyst roles, at least in FMCG sector or any organization like Unilever.
Got it. Florence, do you want to take some of these questions? There are specific questions on the, when do these 4,000 hours of experience start? And which areas does, or which careers does this experience have to be in?
So if talking about the CFA designation, as mentioned, you need a 4,000 professional experience. That start when you first enter the job market as a full-time professional, and it is not necessary to have to start that after your exam. You can, for example, after you graduate, you have full 2 years experience in the research as a research analyst, and then you take the CFA level 1, level 2, and level 3, and in the meantime you already passed 2 years. So altogether, if you have 4 years experience, by the time you pass level 3, then you can immediately become a CFA charterholder. So it can be parallel when you do the exam, before you do the exam, or after you do the exam. And talking about which kind of job, we don't have a really specific list of job, but as I mentioned, you have to be relevant, involved in investment decision-making process. Maybe you are teaching, for example, if you're a professor teaching the course, or you are supervising a team of analysts or portfolio manager to make investment decision for your company. All these will count, and different job roles may have different involvement in this process. So that's why when you receive the recording of this video, I would recommend you to go to the page to visit our self-assessment page. That will give you a much better idea to know which kind of job qualify for this professional work experience.
Florence, thank you. Now I'm cognizant of the fact that we are 10 minutes over time, and I do not see too many questions. So I suppose, I mean, it is, that's it from my end as the moderator. And if Florence, you would like to have any last few words, or Sarvat, if you would like to close the session. So over to you guys. And thank you so much for the panelists, of course, before I sign off. Thank you so much for everybody. This was illuminating and I'm sure useful for everybody.
Yeah, just thank you CFA Society Pakistan to collaborate with us on this career session, and thank you for Raza, you being a very good moderator, and thank you all the speakers for participating. I'm sure students learn a lot from all of you, especially with your experience in the industry and in your roles.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Florence. Thank you, all the guests, and thank you, students. Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank
you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.